So, Next.js. Those of you who don't have the knowledge of what Next.js is or what it does, it's basically a React framework for the web. But why Next.js and not React? I mean, you can just go to your project and use the Create React app, right? I guess it's Create React app. Yeah. But Next.js makes the project much faster, smoother, and also it handles all the API calls and renders everything for you on the server. So let's dive deep into Next.js for a moment. There are some things that you must know before you start a Next.js project. I'm telling you this because I learned it the hard way by just watching random videos on the internet or maybe some GitHub branches or whatever. So I'll try to keep it as compact as possible, okay? If you're not experienced with React or Virtual DOM, you might want to take some time and learn some basic concepts about it. But if you're even a bit experienced, the first thing you should remember is think it in the React way. Well, it's my own phrase, but whatever. If you're a raw HTML, CSS, JS, or maybe an EJS developer, forget what you know about manipulating an element with JS. Use the dedicated React hooks or the inbuilt functions. For example, I have this project, like a dummy project actually, where I have actually two buttons. So one for the like, one for the dislike. And the work for the like button is to set the count +1 with this one and the dislike -1. But if it is actually less than 0, we're just gonna return null. Okay, so I can actually just start the server with npm def and then enter. It's gonna take some time because it's my first time loading this project. Okay, so it is loaded and I have these two buttons, like and dislike. So as you can see, if I actually click on like, it just increases by 1. And if I just click on dislike, it just decreases by 1. And when it is 0, it just doesn't go. But if I actually just remove this sentence from here and then just re-render the page, I gotta wait. Yeah, now it's fine. Now I can go minus. Okay, so that's the whole point of it. That use this useState hook or the use effect or use memo or whatever you have to use to make it. Because if you're a EJS developer or maybe just a raw vanilla JavaScript developer, you have to get the button ID and the class of that element and then update the content inside it. So it is actually a much easier approach and much shorter approach. Second, understand the concepts of client component and server component. I know if you're a beginner, it might be a bit hard to choose which one should be the client and which one should be the server. But the easiest way to remember, at least for me, is if you're performing some action with a particular component and that affects the UI, it is supposed to be client. For example, in this very project, I have this portion, like this button actually. So the button actually is rendered as a client component and the button is imported into this project, the page.tsx, which is the main server component. It is not actually marked as client, so it is the server component. And also it is in the homepage. So yeah, it makes sense. And here is a p-tag with Drago, the page header actually, or the main page component, which is still rendered as the server. So if I just go to my page and reload this page, this portion actually renders as the server component. This portion is rendered as the client component. So in short, if you need interactivity, use client components. If you do not need it, leave it to the server. Third, use the tags that Next has provided to you. What I mean by this is Next.js provides you some custom HTML tags. For example, in the docs, we have the component section. Use the image tag that Next is providing you for the best performance and optimization. Also, for navigations, use the link tag instead of the vanilla A tag. Right. 4. For God's sake, please use TypeScript. I know many of my subscribers use JavaScript, but I guess there is a time that you guys shift from JavaScript to TypeScript because it's for your own sanity. Because vanilla.js doesn't tell you if you made a mistake in particular line or not, or maybe you didn't import or export something correctly. But TypeScript tell you this even before running the app. So it's in the development process. Fifth is all about some important resources that you must try if you're making an Next.js project. First is an awesome UI library called ShatSceneUI. The links for the sites will be given in the description, so you don't need to worry about that. This library lets you style your own components using Tailwind, so it is much easier to use. Next, for authentication, I'll give you two options. One is Clerk. Here you basically just create an app and Clerk does all the provider jobs for you, but obviously it comes with price tags. But for a free alternative, I recommend you using the Nextauth. Even I use that. Although it's much more flexible than Clerk, but you have to manually set up everything. I mean, the provider thing, the email, if you're using email credentials, then you have to set it up manually. Okay, so that's the point. For icons, I know people tend to use React icons, and I know it is the most popular library, I guess, out there, but believe me, use Louisite icons. I guess I'm pronouncing it right, but who cares? It has a huge stock of icons. So if you really need this, please go and use this one. For caching and rate limiting, use Redis with Upstash or IORedis. I believe these are the best thing for the purpose, and I really do not know any other alternative for this. For handling queries on the client side from the backend or external endpoint, I like to use Stack query, or mostly known as React query. For the forms, although I've never used it live in my projects, but I will go with React Forms. I know Forming is a nice alternative, but I believe it is a bit overrated. The sixth and the last one is use validators or parsers. For example, use Zort. If you're sending some data to your backend, you must have a validator to check whether the data you're sending, or receiving actually, has the correct types. If not, it will reject and throw an error. Later you can just handle it. Also, the response that you are sending from the backend can easily be parsed using these validators. And that's all I think you should know before you start your Next.js journey. I hope you liked the video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.